Welcome to the introductory class for our Psychology of Eating series. My name is Tom Rutledge, a psychologist with the VA San Diego healthcare system and a professor with the University of California, San Diego, and I will be your instructor for the course. Today's session is the first of a 10-part series in which we will explore a psychology-based approach for achieving lasting improvements in your weight, health, and quality of life. As we will see here today, the obesity epidemic in the U.S. is both getting worse and defying all efforts to reduce the problems to date. With forecasts from experts for the decades ahead that perhaps 50% of Americans, fully one-half of all American adults, will be obese by the middle of the 21st century, we are in desperate need for effective new methods that can allow people to lose weight in a way that is both healthy and sustainable. Let's begin with some basic statistics about weight loss. The key points of this and the next two slides are that there is a lot of concern among Americans about their weight, as well as an incredible number of resources dedicated to helping people lose weight. But that even this combination of concern and resources does not appear to be having a meaningful benefit. First of all, let's look at concerns about weight. From top to bottom here, you can see that there is a small percentage of Americans, between, say, 5 and 10%, who want to gain weight, and that has been a pretty steady trend for the last 20 plus years. In the middle, there are around 30 to 40% of Americans who have reported over the same period of time trying to mostly stay at their current weight, or at least not gain weight. And then finally, over this last, same 20-year period, 50 to 60% of Americans have reported the desire to lose weight. Statistically, this 50 to 60% translates to more than 100 million Americans in this want to lose weight category, and this large number of people probably explains the huge size of the weight loss industry that has arisen over this period of time to provide Americans with various weight loss products. Here is a collection of statistics about exercise and weight loss resources in the U.S. What makes these statistics particularly interesting is that they make an incredibly convincing case that Americans should have become much healthier as a population over the last several decades, as we've supposedly reaped the rewards of all of this research, resources, and information. There is no country in the world, past or present, that approaches the level of health resources that we currently enjoy. However, you already know that the improvements that you might expect from this list of resources has failed to manifest itself. In reality, the reverse has come true. Against all odds, we've become increasingly less healthy over this period of time. Here are two images that highlight weight and health behavior-related trends over the last 2 decades. On the left, you can see an enormous increase in restaurant revenue as Americans increasingly eat outside of the home. On the right, obesity rates, as you can see here among both children and adults, have increased by nearly 30% in just the last 2 decades. There's currently no evidence that these rates of increase are declining. Some experts argue that we are caught up in a kind of vicious cycle where, as we become increasingly overweight as a population, our lifestyle habits and the structure of our society increasingly caters to convenience food and sedentary living, which then fuels more and more weight gain. Where this cycle stops, at this point, is anybody's guess. The American weight loss industry is complicated on one hand, but surprisingly simple on another. On the first, the weight loss methods that Americans practice looks really complex. For instance, there are thousands of weight loss books, hundreds of different diets, exercise programs, and products, at minimum dozens of different supplements and so-called weight loss pills, and even a growing number of weight loss surgeries and medical interventions. For a person thinking about a brand new weight loss plan, this sort of complexity can be daunting to the point of being overwhelming. How does one choose between such a large set of weight loss options? If you were scientifically minded, your answer might be that, well, you would choose the methods that are best supported by research to work. However, even this potentially admirable approach runs into a major problem, and that's because research studies tend to show the same pattern across most of the weight loss products. That pattern is that, well, just about everything works for a while, but almost nothing works long term. Weight loss surgeries certainly work the best, but they aren't available to more than a small percentage of people for a variety of reasons. On the other hand, when you take a critical look at the many ways that Americans use to lose weight, a common theme, or perhaps set of themes, emerges among the most common methods. And this is that the most common and popularly used weight loss methods, specifically, are those that market themselves as helping people lose weight fast, easy, and often without having to make any sort of permanent changes to their life. The most popular weight loss products, that is the ones at the very top of the list, usually find a way to promise two or even all three of these virtues at the same time. The fast, easy, and skill-free approach to success seems to be part of our American culture because it shows up in some of our other most commonly pursued goals as well, such as becoming wealthy. Becoming wealthy is perhaps the single most common dream among Americans. Because it is such a common goal, it seems like a good question to inquire how Americans go about pursuing their ambition to make lots of money. And asking that question, it is then perhaps revealing to see that, once again, Americans primarily pursue wealth through methods that promise shortcuts, low effort, and that require virtually no new skills, changes, or knowledge on their part. Despite the almost complete failure of these wealth-making methods, seemingly every generation of Americans spends a huge amount of money and time buying lottery tickets instead of doing the things that truly wealthy people did to achieve their financial success. When you compare the methods and the success rates that Americans have with weight loss and with making money, you see a possible connection. Arguably the best example of the American approach to success with weight loss on a big scale is in the popular television show The Biggest Loser. In each season of The Biggest Loser, a dozen or more obese contestants compete in a winner-take-all reality show. Now, you might argue that what the contestants on The Biggest Loser show go through hardly qualifies as easy, but I disagree. The show focuses on rapid weight loss, comparing the contestants weekly with little or no attention given to the quality of the weight loss that they experience. The contestants certainly put in a huge amount of physical effort, but what makes it relatively easy and low skill for them in terms of their participation is that they are taken to a weight loss ranch, provided with their food, given supervised exercise, interviewed and shown on television cameras each week to keep them motivated, and cut off from their regular friends, jobs, sources of stress, and negative home environments. Wouldn't going to a weight loss ranch for a few months and having everything provided for you also make losing weight much simpler? If you haven't read the results of this study already, a 2016 study of weight regain among Biggest Loser contestants from the 2010 season showed that 93% had regained most or even all of their weight. In the news, this study was interpreted by many as proof that dieting and exercise don't work for weight loss. As you might imagine, many consumers viewed this same result as highly discouraging. As you may be seeing, however, from our discussion so far, it is possible to see these results without any surprise whatsoever, given that the weight loss methods among the Biggest Loser contestants were really just large-scale versions of the same fast, easy, and no-skill methods that regular Americans each day use to lose weight with the same pattern of short-term results. Why would Biggest Loser contestant results, using the same methods in a glorified way, be any different? Let's take a step back to our analogy between weight loss and wealth for a moment. If you really wanted to become wealthy, you might start by studying people who have actually built wealth. Find out what they did, and start doing those things yourself. Luckily for us, dedicated people have already done this, writing down wealth strategies from successful people in classic books such as Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, a book that influenced virtually every financial success expert over the last century. Up until now, there hasn't been anything like the Think and Grow Rich book for weight loss. But there has been a research study since the 1990s called the National Weight Control Registry. This study focuses on the success stories in the weight loss community, people who have been able to lose a substantial amount of weight and maintain this weight loss for a year or more. As you can see from the slide, There are a lot of these success stories, with the NWCR having over 10,000 members and going strong. As with our Think and Grow Rich book example of studying the financially successful for their secrets, what can we learn from NWCR members? When the findings from the NWCR study were released in the 1990s, experts in the weight loss community were excited. Finally, we had some objective evidence of what worked for people achieving significant and sustained weight loss. What was perhaps most exciting was that the methods that were found from these successful people turned out to be practical and easily teachable. They didn't require lots of time or money or any other sorts of exclusive advantages. For instance, eating regular meals, watching less television, portion control, regular weighing and exercising were things that virtually anyone could do. It really did seem to come down to eating less and moving more, just like the experts had been claiming all along, but now there were some specifics for guidance. Weight loss programs across the country adopted the NWCR methods into their classes and recommendations. Large-scale research studies, such as the Diabetes Prevention Program, integrated the same NWCR weight loss methods into their protocol and showed some very impressive initial results. Hopes in the scientific community were high. And then a grim reality slowly set in, showing across a growing number of studies that while teaching people to use the NWCR weight loss behaviors worked well for people short-term, or while they were part of active weight loss programs, only a small percentage of people were able to translate their initial results into long-term success. This disappointing result puzzled a great many people, and that number of people included myself early in my career. We seemed to know what worked, and we could teach it to other people. But what worked for some didn't appear to work for the majority, primarily because people either couldn't or wouldn't keep doing the behavioral things that successful people reported doing long term. Weight loss research for the last 10 to 15 years has largely been trying one variation of these NWCR behavioral strategies after another, and the most recent years supplemented by various gadgets, technologies, and smartphone apps, but no program has shown consistent success. The fact that the NWCR results didn't easily translate into consistently greater weight loss raised the daunting question of what would work. Even though these research studies showed that participants did not generally achieve long-term success, there were a couple of encouraging findings from the research. One of these was that there was nearly always a subgroup of people that were successful. What was it about these people that worked? Secondly, there appeared to be a type of practice effect among many people, where those that were successful long-term with weight loss seemed to find their success only after a pattern of repeated failures. It did not seem like weight loss could be explained by a simple you either have it or you don't type of interpretation, but rather that success was more like something that people developed, and that it seemed to involve a lot more than just the external weight loss behaviors that you could see on the outside. This, to me, implied that there might be a way of understanding the process of weight loss success, potentially by focusing more on some of the internal changes that people were making that seemed to be essential from going from their short-term success to their long-term success. Another way that weight loss and money are similar is that people tend to believe that both will make them happier. In the same ways that money is linked to leisure, friendship, and fun, so too is weight loss commonly advertised in a way to make it seem like it will create many improvements in a person's life. According to the research on the subject, however, the impact of weight loss on a person's emotional and social quality of life turns out to be complicated. Sure enough, under some circumstances, weight loss can result in many physical, psychological, and social improvements for a person. However, under different circumstances, the same amount of weight loss can actually lower a person's quality of life. Because I believe strongly in setting the dual goal of weight loss and a higher quality of life, I want to share with you how weight loss can either help or harm you, so that you can use this knowledge constructively to set up a program and get the results that you are seeking. First off, before you look at the descriptions on this slide, close your eyes and answer for me. What are ways that losing weight could make my life worse? See how many answers that you can come up with before you open your eyes and look at the table. The potential harms of weight loss listed in this table are not abstract or hypothetical. They are in fact real problems that I've seen many times in my career. Some of these problems are even very common. For example, many Americans feel physically and or emotionally worse going on crash diets or when enduring harsh exercise programs. Many other people underestimate how losing weight will create challenges in their social and even romantic lives. Research shows, for example, that divorce rates actually go up among people going through bariatric surgery, a procedure that tends to produce a large amount of weight loss. Similarly, people for whom food is like a friend or a source of emotional comfort can find themselves struggling when they can't use food to manage their feelings anymore. Finally, the last but hardly the least surprise for many people is that losing weight by itself doesn't change their self-talk habits. Your brain is clever, and it can easily find other reasons to hate yourself and to criticize yourself, even if you do manage to lose weight. It is important to be aware of these potential problems because awareness can help you set up a program to potentially prevent them, or at least to respond more effectively to them when they occur. Here we see the conditions under which weight loss can improve your overall quality of life. This is the outcome that everybody wants, but many people naively believe that losing weight will produce these changes automatically. Perhaps you were lucky and you don't have any challenges with emotional eating. You don't obsess about regaining weight, and perhaps you will be surrounded by supportive people who don't become envious or petty over the improvements that you are making. Perhaps even the mental changes listed here also happen to you without any intentional effort, and you naturally become a better person and not just a thinner person. Perhaps. But rather than depending on luck, wouldn't it be wiser to include strategies to produce these positive changes directly into your weight loss plan? Here is an overview of the strategies for achieving the dual goal of sustainable weight loss and an improved quality of life. This is the psychology of eating system that we will describe in detail over the subsequent 9 classes, and it addresses multiple dimensions. For any given person, some of these strategies will naturally be more important for success than are others. One of your tasks as we go through this series is to reflect on your own weight loss experiences and your own weight loss goals and identify for yourself which of these topics is most important for you to address. You can do so in part by asking yourself questions such as improving which of these areas would improve my results the most? Which of these areas has most held me back or caused me to regress in the past? Or finally, which of these would be the most practical area for me to begin working on right now? Perhaps the best way to appreciate the psychology of eating approach to weight loss is to make a direct comparison of the philosophy behind the psychology of eating system to the standard weight loss philosophy practiced by most Americans. That is what this slide details. In contrast to the standard weight loss philosophy that encourages a reliance on weight loss products, experts, lots of self-discipline and sacrifice, and relying upon specific diets that you usually have to buy, the psychology of eating system is more of a mastery system, promoting independence, self-growth, and flexibility. Beyond the mutual goal of weight loss, the two philosophies could hardly be more different. Although the psychology of eating topics can technically be discussed in any order, again, different topics will be of different value to a given person and should be considered in terms of their relative value to you personally. My experience has been that there is an order in presenting these topics that makes the most sense overall. The first section of topics I refer to as the foundation principles because they work something like building the foundation for a home and creating a solid groundwork or framework for some of the other psychology of eating topics later on to flourish. These foundation principles include, firstly, developing what I call a healthy journey perspective that emphasizes a long-term framework on weight loss. You and I will be managing our weight, for better or for worse, the rest of our lives. So why not approach this endeavor in a way that we can learn how to do it well? The healthy identity shift refers to the transformation from being an unhealthy person who tries to make themselves do healthy things, which rarely works for long, to becoming a healthy person who naturally practices healthy lifestyle habits. Thirdly, thinking thin addresses the thinking habits of heavier versus thinner people. Perhaps it is a surprise to you, perhaps not, but people who maintain healthy lifestyles and healthy bodies over time think differently, and these thinking patterns are a big part of why they are successful. Identifying how successful people in this particular area think and adopting these thinking habits into your own personal practices is a very important way of making progress for many people. The second set of psychology of eating topics address 4 important skill sets that each involve shifting from an outdated and less effective method to a new method that promotes better weight loss success. These skill areas include learning how to create and sustain motivation, learning how to improve confidence, and improving your relationships with exercise and with food. When a person learns how to manage their motivation and confidence levels, it makes it much easier for them to sustain the emotional energy involved in losing weight, as well as helping them to recover from the inevitable challenges and setbacks that occur along the way. Similarly, the different mindsets that we will discuss regarding exercise and food are critical for most people if they want to make the leap from short-term weight loss efforts into a permanent and enjoyable lifestyle that promotes weight loss as well as a high quality of life. The final pair of topics in the series focus on specific types of structural and philosophical changes that are often very important, in particular to long-term weight loss. The first of these addresses weight loss plateaus, an experience that on one hand is common to people losing weight, but also tends to be an experience that produces strong negative emotions that frequently cause the plateau to then turn into full-blown weight regain. Developing a new perspective on plateaus that helps a person respond to them in a constructive way is the focus of Topic 8. Lastly, we conclude the series by discussing the very strong but often invisible influence of our physical and social environments on our eating habits. Many well-intentioned people, in fact, face steep odds against their weight loss goals because their environments are stacked against them. Until we learn how to recognize our environmental barriers and find ways to tip these influences in our favor, we are making our health-related goals much harder to achieve than what they could be. The goal today was threefold. First, we reviewed evidence showing the large and growing gap between weight loss resources and weight loss success. Despite living in a country with unprecedented levels of nutrition and exercise resources, Americans continue to gain weight. Secondly, we examined the methods and philosophy that Americans use to guide most of their weight loss efforts. We looked at these methods and philosophy in detail in order to highlight the fatal flaws in the approach, namely the reliance on methods that promise shortcuts, minimize effort, and that require no personal changes in order to be successful. Identifying these fatal flaws then finally allowed us to discuss the types of weight loss methods and philosophy that are most important to success, laying out these features in the psychology of eating system that we will explore in depth in the coming weeks. To conclude us today, the materials and information that we cover in these classes is intended to be valuable standalone information to help you achieve better weight loss results. However, for those of you who want additional information about the topics that we cover in these classes, well, you can find my book, The Psychology of Eating, on Amazon, and you can also find my video channel on YouTube containing the slides for each topic as well as audio recordings of the content.